Tarry here, where the stories never grow old, and you hear something new every time they are told, and it comes clear. So tarry here, where it doesn't matter your age, and when we gather round the table, we all take the stage year after year. So tarry here.
Welcome to the Enlighten Radio Storytelling Hour at enlightenradio.org. This is Fanny Crawford.
And this is Stash Ziolkowski.
Today is August 19th, 2024. Our theme today is More Mirrors. And we have quite a few stories for our listeners today.
That was good. I love the way you pronounced that. You managed to get almost 4 syllables in there.
Those are great words. How was your weekend, Stash?
Oh, pretty good. Not bad. Went, every day there's a visit to my brother. Mm-hmm. And I haven't made it every day. My wife is trying to really take. She feels that it's hard on me, and I'm willing to admit it's hard on me. It's difficult. I'm like a big delicate flower, and the situation is rough. But she goes and sees my brother also, and so what we've been doing for the last week, we've been doing like every other day. And she usually goes, and it's good for him because he and I have a long history together, and we get along very well. We're very good friends and all, but she's a lot better looking than I am, and she's more fun. So she always takes him in a treat or something like that. She'll stop and pick up something. She takes him in an ice cream now and then, and. And so it's different, and that is good, that because they get along great also, but he is getting more and more, he's forgetting more and more things. Like when I was in on Saturday, Saturday I was in, and he said to me, "What are you doing coming in here 11 o'clock at night?" There's a clock on the wall, right? That he can look at right next to his TV, and I had to direct his attention to the window so he could see that it was daylight. And I said, "It's 11 o'clock in the morning, brother," and he said, "Wow." He said, "I've been laying here in bed, and I wake up and open my eyes, and I keep thinking, when am I going to really fall asleep?" So, and I understand.
I often wake up and have no idea what time it is. What time it is.
Right. So yeah, and he's in this small room, 2-person room, but small room, and it's just, and it's he's frustrated in a sense, but it doesn't take much for him to forget about being frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
A
good guy.
Oh yeah, and great that he's got such a good, that he is a nice guy. He jokes, as tired as he is and slow as he is, he jokes with all the people who take care of him, and it's kind of an interesting thing. He can't get up to take a shower. So he gets bathed in bed twice a week, and or more often, I guess, if it's necessary. But the ladies who do that are just, to me, are angels. I have such a great feeling for nurses anyway, because I've been in hospital a number of times, and they really do things that I would be reluctant to even think about. But to bathe a 200-pound man, or who cannot do anything for himself, head to toe, and I sat outside on Saturday morning when I went to see him. I sat outside of his room for 15 minutes while they were the doors open. They have the curtains closed and all, and I could hear them. And I sat out in the hall waiting for them to finish his bath, and they were having a heck of a time. I mean, what are these two ladies? And and he was. I mean, it's just funny. They would say, "Okay, you roll over now," and he said, "Only if you help me," because you can't roll over. And they joke, it's and that's good. And everybody who works at that place at Martinsburg Healthcare Center, I'll put a plug in for them. The people are so nice. Every one of the people I've met there who come in this room, and there have been many different people because they're on different shifts. Sometimes I've been in there in the afternoon. I've been in there early in the morning, and they all speak to him so nicely and get him. They talk to him call him by his first name, and some of them call him sweetheart and honey and stuff like that. And he jokes with them. He jokes with one of them and says, "You haven't gotten married yet, right? There's still hope." It's so good. And every one of them, I've had a number of those tell them, when I'm leaving, I'll say, "Thanks a lot for taking care of my brother." And they always say, "Boy, you know, a number of them have said, we love your brother. He is such a good patient, and he is always so kind and nice." And that's true. He really appreciates, and I feel bad for the people who work there because Tony's been he's been there for about, I don't know, since April. And he's been in just not because of it, not because of him, but because of the situation with rooms and stuff. He's been moved a couple times. Once because they had two ladies coming in, and he had his room was, he was in a room by himself because the guy was discharged or something, and they couldn't put a lady in the room because they won't put a man and woman in the same small room. So they moved Tony to another room, and he's had a couple of interesting, I was going to say bedfellows, but that's not the right word, roommates. And the one he has now, he's pleasant. I've spoken to him a couple of times, but he's most of the day, this guy either gets out of bed and gets in a wheelchair and goes to one of the rooms at the end of the hall that is like a dining room for that part of the facility, and stays there most of the day. He has books with him and notes and stuff, and he reads. And if he's not out, if he's out of the room, that's fine. But when he's in the room, he's in bed and he has the curtain completely folded around his bed. So it's like, but and it's interesting. My brother has a TV. Well, they have a TV that they share, but this man can't hear, and so he fusses about the TV because it's too loud, but he really can't hear. So it just is, it's almost
Okay,
it's like a
someday-
sitcom.
Someday we'll have to tell sitcom hospital stories.
There you go. That's what it's like, So.
I do want to thank Andy Alfred-Irwin for opening our show this morning.
Absolutely.
Original composition. And you're going to tell us about Speak?
And I will, but if you could give me a time check, it would be lovely.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay, so okay, all right. I just, I get started and then I forget
Well,
that
exactly.
we should be checking the
You
time.
were telling such an interesting story that I completely.
Yeah. I'm going to suggest to John that he put a clock on the screen, or a timer.
I could bring a clock in here. I have 2 clocks in here, but I'm not paying attention.
Okay. So here we go. Speak Story series. Man, it's getting through the 12th year. On Tuesday, September the 10th, a wonderful storyteller from the United Kingdom. Her name is Debs Newbold. She's an award-winning storyteller, and she will be in Shepherdstown in person. And this month, just this month, in September coming up, September 10th, this performance will be at the community center, and it'll be at 7 o'clock in Shepherdstown instead of 7:30. And it's going to be at 7 o'clock, and it's because her program is going to be a little bit longer than some. So 7 o'clock. And she's going to be telling the story of a 16th century person, Dauntless Grace O'Malley, who was a pirate and apparently and a real person, and apparently when it was on the high seas, even went for some reason to the court of Queen Elizabeth I and had lots of adventures, and I'm looking forward to hearing that. Then in October 8th, Adam Booth is going to do a program of scary stories. And I'm looking forward to that because Adam is good at scary stories. He has one about a doll on the shelf that I have listened to 3 times. And the third time I said, or the second time I listened to it, I said, I'm never going to listen to that story again. Then I listened to it again, and I said, I'm never going to listen to that story again. You'll probably tell that story because it's really creepy. Adam has a great way with scary stories. And then in November 12th, Rachel Dart is the 2024 commission recipient. So she will be premiering a brand new story. She had to apply to that. It's a contest that was opened up last year by Speak and was very successful. Diane Macklin was the first commission recipient, and Rachel Dart is the next one. And I believe, since we're doing this again, the second year in a row, I believe Adam is going to keep this going. And Rachel Dart studied with Liz Weir, and she and Liz Weir received the J.J. Renault Award together, the Mentorship Award. And so she studied with Liz Weir and has become a very good storyteller. And now she is the commission recipient. And I think that's going to be wonderful. That'll be 7:30, November 12th at the community center in Shepherdstown.
Excellent. All right.
Good.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start with a story if that's okay.
That's perfect.
Okay, this is a little longer than usual.
Okay, and I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, and I'm trying this one out. Okay, this is an Estonian folktale from Estonia that was translated by Irina Zelosnova. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Called The Magic Mirror. Once upon a time, there lived a famous and very wealthy king, so rich he decided he would never grow old. But old age comes to all, rich or poor, and the king was quite angry about this. Was he no better than a common beggar? Rich as 10 kings, but his hair was turning white and his health failing in spite of all his money and his power. Now the king had 3 sons, but he summoned only the 2 eldest, for the youngest was a simple soul, mocked and called a fool by his brothers, but so good-natured he never minded their jokes and jibes. The 2 eldest sons came at their father's bidding, and the king said, "When I was a child, I heard of a magic mirror in which one could look to turn young again. I will give half my kingdom to he who brings me this mirror. Take with you whatever you need and find that mirror. Well, the sons were happy to oblige, asked for a coach, a coachman, 6 horses, and a sack of gold. The king agreed, and they set out on their journey. The youngest, the one called the Fool, learned of his brother's quest and asked to join the search for the magic mirror. The king laughed. Where would a fool like you go? Better go sit in the garden. They will do well enough without you. But the fool was very hurt at being thought too young and foolish, and he persisted. Finally, the king said, let it be as you ask. Only don't think I'd trust you with 6 horses and a sack of gold. Go as you are, and if you find trouble, blame yourself. But the fool was pleased. The king's permission was enough for him. He counted his money, found he had not enough for a good horse, and had to be satisfied with an old and run-down gray nag, a pound or 2 of cheese, and a large loaf of bread. The fool got on the nag's back and set off, the nag dragging painfully along at a slow jog, but this did not trouble the fool. Toward evening, he came upon an inn with a coach and 6 horses at the door. Ah, perhaps I'll find my brothers are here, he said to himself. I'll ask them to take me with them. But when he found them and asked, take me with you and we'll have a fine adventure together, they only laughed at him and told him to go back home. The younger brother felt very bad indeed. He left the inn and rode on. But the elder brothers remained at the inn, drinking and toasting the misery of the younger, laughing and joking that he and his decrepit horse would soon be eaten by wolves. The fool continued riding, came to a forest and started to ride round it when he noticed a narrow path leading into the woods. He thought, well, it is often in the forest that interesting things are found, and he determined to follow that path instead. All that day he rode, sad and lonely, till well into the dusky evening he came upon a little ramshackle hut and a tiny gray-haired woman hoeing in a garden in front of that hut. He stopped the nag, greeted the old woman, and asked politely for water and grass for his mount. Someone to see me at last, said she. I saw the forest die and rot away and another grow up, but not once in all this time did I see a living soul. She agreed to the water and grass and asked, what brings you here? I'm looking for a mirror, grandmother, the fool explained, a magic one in which one has only to turn young again. And as my father does not want to grow old, he sent me in search. Do you know where I can find it, Grandma? No, my son, I don't. This is the first I hear of such a mirror. But I have a sister even older than I am, and she may know. Go and see her. It will take you 3 days to reach her. And she told him the way. The fool thanked her and rode on 3 days till he reached the house of the old woman's older sister. She too was surprised to see him. What's you here? She asked. The fool told her about the mirror and asked where it could be found. The sister to the first old woman said, I heard about some such in my youth, but where it is I do not know. You might ask my older sister. She is the wisest and oldest of the 3 of us. It will take you 3 days to reach her. She gave him directions. The fool thanked her, asked for water, grass for his mount, and when they had rested, he thanked her again and rode on till he reached the house of the eldest of the old women. And she was more surprised to see him than any of them. What brings you here? She asked. So the fool told her about the mirror and asked where it was to be found. That is something I cannot tell you, said the eldest of the 3 sisters. I have heard about some such thing in my youth, but where it is I don't know. Perhaps one of my servants knows. You better leave your horse to graze and drink at my creek. Come into my house. The fool came into the hut. The old woman took a long, carved whistle from a shelf, and going out onto the porch with it, she blew hard once And ho, the whole forest came alive, rustling as if the grass were trod by many, many feet. The fool looked out of the window and saw all the beasts of the forest had gathered by the hut. The old woman spoke with the animals and came back into the hut. No, my forest servants know nothing about the mirror, but I'll call the others. Perhaps they have heard something. And she took another carved whistle from the shelf, and going out onto the porch again, she blew even harder than before. And ho, 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 again a rustling began, only it was not the grass that rustled this time, but the branches, making a sound like the arms of many windmills whirling round and round. The fool looked out of the window and saw all the birds of the air had flocked to the hut. The old woman spoke to them and came back to her guest again. No, said she, these servants of mine know no more than the first, but I have one other servant, wisest of them all. If he has not heard of the mirror, then that means no such thing exists. The old woman took a third carved whistle from the shelf. You may hear for yourself what the wisest of my servants has to say, said she, and she blew so hard that the fool's ears felt stopped up. And now there came a rumbling so loud it seemed as if a storm were passing over the forest. A large, two-headed hawk came down onto the glade and, perching on a stone, asked with a wave of his wing, what is it the mother of the forest wishes? I wish to know where the magic mirror is to be found, said the eldest of the old women. I can tell you where, said the hawk, but it won't do you no good, for no man can ever hope to reach it. It is hidden in the chamber of a princess who lives on an island in the middle of the sea, and so high are the rocks that surround the island no ship can put in to shore. What a man cannot do, you can, said the old woman. Put this guest of mine on your back and take him to the island. The hawk spread out his wings. The fool got on his back, and up they soared to the sky. For 9 days and 9 nights they flew and finally reached the island in the middle of the sea. Said the hawk, when night comes, go into the castle and steal the mirror hidden under the pillow of the sleeping princess. But mind, don't stay too long, or it'll be the end of us. She is a sound sleeper, but you must be quick. Seize the mirror and run. The hawk plucked 2 feathers from his own tail with his beak and gave them to the fool. When you reach the gate, you will see 2 bears. Throw each of them a feather and you'll be able to pass by. So the fool ran to the entrance of the castle. The bears saw him and at once reared up on their hind paws, but he quickly threw them the feathers and the bears snatched them up and fell asleep. The fool now entered the castle, and though everyone in it seemed to be sleeping, it did not take him long to find the princess. He took the magic mirror from under her pillow, thrust it beneath his coat, and was about to leave when he saw a table set with food and drink. There's time enough to run away. I had nothing but bread and cheese for weeks now. And he sat down and began to eat with great enjoyment all that was piled upon the plate, upon the table. When he had gorged himself and could eat and drink no more, he thought, I wonder what the princess is like. I'd better take a look. He came up to the bed, and so lovely was the princess that he could not get his fill gazing at her. And there on her fingers, shining bright as the sun, a most beautiful ring. The fool could not stop himself and took it off very gently and then ran with all his might for the gate. But the hawk was so angry at his long absence that he seized the fool by his collar and with the boy hanging from his beak, soared up into the air. The bears waked and started up, growling and running after, but the hawk was quickly high overhead and out of their reach. Hawk and fool flew over the sea, and the hawk dropped down, dipped the fool in the water to his knees, and rose up again. A little further on, he dropped down a second time and dipped the fool in the water to his chest, and then again a third time, the fool up to his neck in the sea. The fool was terribly frightened and yelled and screamed in a frenzied voice each time. But after a while he came to himself and asked the hawk, why did you dip me in the sea? Why, my heart was in my shoes. I was so frightened. That is no way to joke. Let it be a lesson to you, said the hawk. Now you'll know what it was I went through waiting at the gate while you dawdled in the castle. You were frightened when I dipped you in the water to your knees. Well, so had I been when you were looking over the princess's bedchamber and the bears lifted their heads. You were frightened when I dipped you in the water to your chest. Well, so had I been when you started eating at the princess's table and the bears sat up. You were frightened when I dipped you in the water to your neck. Well, so had I been, and badly so when you took the ring from the princess's finger and the bears reared up on their hind legs. Had the princess wakened, they'd have torn me to pieces, and don't think you'd have escaped alive. Oh, praise God, she did not wake, the fool thought. They flew to the house of the oldest of the old women and showed her the mirror. And the old woman said, oh, I've no use for it. I'm much too old for it to do me any good, but you may have need of these. And she gave the fool 3 switches. Just wave these switches, said she, and your every wish will come true. The fool thanked her, and with a special thanks to the beleaguered hawk, got on the back of his old horse and rode off. He came to the house of the second old woman and showed her the mirror. I've no use for that. I'm much too old for it to do me any good, said the old woman, but you may have need of this. And she gave the fool a small bag. If you have nothing to eat, undo this bag, said she, and loaves of bread will come spilling out of it. The fool thanked her warmly, said goodbye, and rode on again. He came to the house of the youngest of the old women and showed her the mirror, and she said, oh, I've no use for that. I'm much too old, but you may have need of these. And she gave him a pair of scissors. If your clothes wear out, just click these scissors. The fool thanked her, said goodbye, and rode on. He rode up to the same old inn and saw that the coach and 6 stood by it just as before. I'll go in and find my brothers, said the fool to himself, and he came into the inn. His brothers saw him and said, well, have you found the mirror? So I have, the fool replied. The brothers began to ply him with food and drink, and when he was quite drunk, they said, come, fool, what if it isn't a magic mirror after all? Oh, it is, said the fool, and he brought out the mirror. The brothers looked in it and saw that it was indeed a magic mirror, a treasure. If ever there was one, they said. You don't need it, we'll take it for ourselves. And taking the mirror, they went off with it. Haven't we been lucky, they said. But don't try to fight us, fool, or we'll give you a beating you won't forget. They went to their father and gave him the mirror. And the moment he looked in it, he turned young again. What fine, clever fellows you are, he said. Here, take half my kingdom, for that is what I promised you. Now the fool came running, weeping and sobbing. It was I who found the mirror, said he. My older brothers took it from me. They stayed in the inn and they never went anywhere. Oh, what a fool you are, said his father. A fool like that should not be allowed to live, said the older brothers. Have him put to death. The fool tried to explain how he had found the mirror and how he had flown on the hawk's back, but this only made the king angrier than ever. Take him to the seashore, he said to his older sons. Put him in a boat with no oars and pushed the boat into the sea. The brothers seized the fool, put him in a boat with no oars, and pushed it into the sea. That will help you, they cried, laughing to themselves. The wind sent the fool's boat out into the open sea, and the waves tossed it about for a long time, till at last they flung it on to some rocks. The fool looked to all sides of him and saw that he was on an island in the middle of the sea. My end has come, thought he, to find myself on a desert island of all places. I'd better try to drag the boat out onto the shore at least. He tried dragging the boat, but found that this was more than he could do, for something lay under his coat that was hindering him. He thrust his hand in his shirt and, found the 3 switches that the oldest of the old women had given him. I forgot about the gifts, thought he. Now we'll see if this magic truly works. He took the switches, waved them once, and said, let a town grow up here, and let there be many, many people in it. And no sooner were the words out of his mouth than a town rose up out of the ground, and as if out of thin air, many, many people appeared, naked as the day they were born, the poor things. The fool took out the scissors, clicked them once and then again, and said, come now, scissors, dress the townsfolk. And at once carts loaded with clothing drove up, and all the townsfolk had to do was to come up and dress themselves. But this was not the end of it, for there was nothing for them to eat. The fool got out his bag and untied it at once, and loaves of bread came spilling out of it, one after another, enough for 10 kingdoms. And the fool became the ruler on that island, and all the islanders were well pleased with him, which was only natural, for thanks to the switches, the scissors, and the bag, they never lacked for anything. And one fine day, the young king was out taking a stroll on the seashore when he saw a ship far out at sea. Quick, now where's my boat? Asked he, and a boat was brought him, and he got into it and rowed up to the ship. No sooner was he near than he saw a princess on board, the very same from whom he had stolen the magic mirror. The young king greeted the princess and invited her to visit his kingdom. Well, thank you, but I can't come with you, said the princess. I must sail on. My magic mirror has been stolen, and so has my golden ring, and whoever has my ring is the one I must marry. And what if it turns out to be an old man in his dotage, or a wicked magician, or some such monster? With my magic mirror to help him, he'll live another 100 years and never rest till he finds me. But he won't think to look for me at sea, so that's why I decided to live out the rest of my life sailing the seas. As this, the king took her ring from his own finger and gave it to the princess. And the princess, overjoyed, for wasn't her husband to be young, handsome, and a king besides? They stepped out onto the shore, and all who saw them greeted them with joy. Soon afterwards, the king and the princess were married, and their wedding was celebrated in grand style, the townsfolk feasting and making them merry for many a month on end. And as for that magic mirror, it was lost and has not been found to this day.
Wow.
That was almost a 30-minute story.
Well, I enjoyed it. What happened to the king?
He grew old, but apparently nobody loved him. So we don't need to worry about him.
Yeah, so the mirror didn't really work for him, or did it?
It did, as far as we know.
The
mirror worked, but it hasn't been seen since.
Yeah.
And since this was a very, very long time ago, we cannot actually document what happened to that king.
No, right. All right. Well, that had all the parts of all the great stories. All right. So you've been listening to storytelling at enlightenradio.org, coming to you from Bolivar, West Virginia, Hagerstown, Maryland, and Martinsburg, West Virginia. And you just heard a story by Fanny Crawford from, I'm sorry, I forgot where it was from.
Estonia.
Estonia, right. And I was chuckling when you first started because you said, here's an Estonian story from Estonia. And I thought, oh, why don't you have an Estonian story from Afghanistan?
Obviously, I was not listening to myself.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. Well, it's interesting. It's very interesting. And I should have timed it for you, but wow, could that have been 25 minutes?
It was close to 25 minutes, yes.
Wow. Yes.
It was
right.
25 minutes short, maybe 5 minutes. It was about 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So, well, here you go. What I have to offer is not anywhere near that long, but it's kind of different in that it is. I'm going to call this reflections on mirrors, which is kind of a play on words. Okay, so here we go. Go to any mirror in your home and place your hand against the glass. Wait until you feel it. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it only takes a moment. When you feel it, you'll know. You'll suddenly pull your hand away in horror. Something is behind the glass, wriggling against your skin. It can't hurt you, but now you know it's there. Try sneaking. Try sneaking into a darkened room and peeking at the edge of the mirror. If you're quiet enough, you can catch a glimpse of your reflection getting ready. The next time you're alone in the room with the mirror, get a ruler and turn down the lights. Stand in front of the mirror, quickly grab a random strand of your hair, measure it, and look at the strand of hair your reflection is holding. It is not the same length. You've just outsmarted your reflection. Don't ever turn your back on your reflection again. Now it knows you're onto it, and there's no telling what it could do. What if there are two sides to every mirror? What if your reflection wants to keep you on your side? What if you are able to climb through a mirror, but your reflection keeps standing in front of you, blocking your way? Try to touch the mirror without your reflection touching the same place. Maybe the cold surface isn't the mirror you are touching, but the cold flesh of your own reflection, pushing back, keeping you inside. Maybe you are the reflection. Every time you exhale, a little bit of your soul escapes. Luckily, you almost always inhale quick enough to get it back before anyone else does. Almost. Have you ever fogged up a mirror with your breath? Don't do that. Have you ever really looked at yourself in a mirror? Have you ever stared into the eyes of your reflection and wondered what it was thinking? It may sound absurd and ridiculous. It's just your own reflection, isn't it? So why does it make you uncomfortable? When you look at yourself in the mirror, why do you get the feeling that someone is watching you? You automatically trust your reflection because it looks like you. It seems like it couldn't do you any harm. It uses that to put you off your guard. Take a closer look. You move suddenly, you will notice that your reflection is always a split second behind. its reactions are quick and it anticipates your every move, but it's not quick enough. When you notice this irregularity, do not give it any sign that you saw it make a mistake. Just walk away and act as if nothing happened. Now you have the advantage. Does your reflection copy you, or do you copy your reflection? Every morning you wake up, walk into the bathroom, and stare at yourself in the mirror. No matter what you do, your reflection has no choice but to mimic your every action. It does this every day, over and over. Have you ever thought about how much your reflection must resent you? One morning you will awake as usual, and when you go to the bathroom, your reflection will pick up a pair of scissors. This time you will be forced to mimic its actions. It grips those scissors tightly in its fist, and you do the same. On this particular morning, entirely against your will, your reflection will force you to plunge those scissors directly into your eyes. You will scream, and your reflection will scream too. Just remember, your reflection can mimic your actions, but it cannot mimic your pain. The people in the mirror are always watching you, studying your every moment. They know everything about you. Your favorite food, the way you part your hair, your favorite clothes, your first crush, even what you had for breakfast. They never forget any detail. They can't afford to make a mistake. They are jealous of you. They want to be you. They are waiting for the day when they can switch places with you. They will emerge and take over your life while you are banished to the other side of the mirror, where you will watch them with your nose pressed up against the glass as they live your life. Never trust your own reflection. It's the only thing in the world that could seamlessly replace you. You wake in the morning and roll out of bed, making your way to the bathroom. You take a look in the mirror. Your reflection stares back at you. After you finish showering, you dry yourself and return to your bedroom. While you're getting dressed, something disturbs you. You hear a strange noise coming from the bathroom. Glancing around the hallway, you can just make out a dark silhouette in the bathroom. You barge into the bathroom, but it's empty. There is still heavy with condensation. For a split second, you notice something in the corner of your vision. A shadowy figure just slipped out the door. You rub the fog off the mirror and stare into it. But there's nothing staring back.
That's wonderful, Sash.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Huh. I'm not muted.
Are you muted?
No.
Oh. I don't understand. I can't hear you.
Try transferring out of the headphones to your other microphone. Try transferring to your regular mic.
I really can't hear you. I don't understand.
I can hear you fine,
Okay,
but I don't know why you can't hear me.
Oh, maybe I had the sound down. I'll try it again. Hello?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
That was weird. All right. Anyway, well, that was kind of a spooky thing.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed
the ending.
I've always been fascinated by mirrors, just so much, and had I didn't not even sure where I came across this thing I was just doing. It's like for years I have played with mirrors, teaching science. I've done all kind of things about teaching kids about reflections and about how light travels. You can send light beams from mirror to mirror to mirror and stuff like that. But I remember being very young and always thinking, I wonder if there's a way to get into a mirror and and because it seems like if you sneak up to a mirror and look at it, put your head against the mirror and look carefully, you might be able to see into that other room. And I remember in class doing the thing with the kids, bringing in a couple of mirrors, and set them up side by side and saying, if you stand at this end of these mirrors, I have like 3 mirrors in a row, and I would say, and I'd have one of the kids stand up and go to a certain spot in the room, and then I'd say, we can look in the mirror here and see you. You're not on this side of the room, but everything you can do, I can see you do everything you do, and I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at the mirror, and you can't even see that you're in the mirror, because I would have the kid like 10 feet away from me, but still looking in the mirror at an angle. His image would be in that mirror. And talk about trying to explain that image scientifically based on reality and science, and about angles and light traveling in straight lines and bouncing and stuff like that. I clearly remember seeing some of the kids who understood the details of what I was showing them, and others who looked at me and thought, I think he's out of his mind, or something like that, because it seems so strange. But over the years, I've had students tell me that they went home and were fascinated because of the class, and spent some time in the bathroom looking in the mirror and then getting close to the mirror sideways and trying to see what they could. And I always like talking about mirrors with students, because it was one of the few subjects where we could have a discussion, and they could go home and they could continue the investigation, or if they were interested. And even if they weren't interested at first, I had students tell me that after a while, they would remember talking about the mirror in class, and then they would look at it again and think about the stuff that we had discussed. And I think it must have been a marvelous experience the first time a human being understood that when they looked down into a pool of water, especially maybe after a rain, if there was some water, and because sometimes a small pool of water, depending on what it's sitting on or in, will act like a mirror, and you can see your face. I think that's what's the story. Is it Narcissus?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who apparently looked into the river or something and fell in love with his own image. So I often think, I wonder what it must have been like for this, sentient being coming across some kind of reflective surface and seeing themselves, and being and what would their mind have been thinking? What would they have, experienced seeing that image? And I'm wondering if at first they would realize it was them, because it is kind of neat. One of the neat things to do, and I never did this in my classroom, but I would suggest to students that they do it, was to take a small mirror, like a mirror that might be on the wall, but say 12 by 20 or something, just big enough that they could handle without causing a problem. Make sure they get permission from their parents, depending on their age, I guess, and then find the family pet and put that mirror, like especially for a cat, on the floor against the wall,
just so that the cat will eventually see it. And if you've never done that, you should try it, because it is very interesting to watch an animal interact with the mirror. Better yet, if you could get a mirror that can stand up by itself or prop it up so that it stand up, and have an animal, just put it in a room where an animal can walk around. If you observe the animal, sometimes you'll see the animal looking at the mirror, wondering it, walking back and forth, and then going behind it to try to find where the cat is. And I myself have seen that when my daughters were little, we had cats around a lot, and it was pretty amazing to see a cat go to a mirror, look at the image, walk to the edge of the mirror, and look behind the mirror, thinking that they might see the other cat. And that's assuming that that's what they were doing, because I don't know what cats do when they're thinking, and I don't know if cats think. I just was putting on my interpretation of their actions. So.
It is fascinating.
Yes. So,
but there's a whole other topic of mirrors that I'm beginning to explore. Seeing photographs as a permanent mirror.
To what?
Seeing photographs as a permanent form of mirror, and the impact of that mirror on our society. The number of photographic images that are out there, and how fascinated people are by manipulating them, creating new realities.
Oh, yeah.
The usual reality.
Right.
And just the history of photography, and the recognition, the changes in how people recognized what photography was good for. Are you having trouble with your sound?
Again, yeah. It's okay. I think it'll be better now.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Now it's fine.
Okay.
I don't understand, the headphone things drive me crazy.
So we have a number of different sensory conversations going on.
Yes, sorry about that. Yeah. Well,
okay.
Our senses are a pretty amazing thing. Maybe that would be a topic for the future.
Five senses.
Our senses, yeah. This, as a teacher, I can remember having an entire having a booklet with lessons in it, and one of them was things about senses, and I did things about the senses with kids, and some of it I think would be interesting for a program.
What kinds of things would you explore?
The sense of touch, like how you could take a very sharp needle, like a sewing needle, but brand new one, and it's very fine, and touch your skin on your palm, and there will be places on your palm where you won't feel it, and there'll be places where you'll pull back, and it's because not every single spot on your body has a touch receptor. Most of your body does. If somebody touches you, you feel it. But there are parts of your body, places in your body where they're not sensitive to touch. And so kids were surprised at that. And some of them then even jumped on, is that why some guys can put a needle through their arm or something? And I said, that I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not going to try that myself. But you might, I would say you might now. That's a good thing. Go and investigate that. Find out. Maybe or maybe those people who do that are just goofy enough to numb their arm or something and then put a hole through it. Who knows? I mean, people pierce their ears. Nowadays, it is likely that you could go to any department store and walk around, or a mall, and if you could walk around a mall for 15 minutes and not see a pierced human being, someone with a ring in their ears, rings on their eyelids, a ring through their nose, or a ring through their lips, it would be a miracle if you would do that. Spend it, time in there and not see anyone like that.
I have earrings through my ears right now.
Great. And luckily you don't have your nose pierced.
Why am I lucky?
I couldn't stand working with somebody who had their nose pierced. I mean it. All my life I've had a hard time whenever I saw somebody with a nose ring, or I've seen people with rings in their lips. I have to do this. You can see my hands, I guess.
Yes.
I have to do that and put my hands away. Why? Because I want to reach up and grab that thing and pull it, which would be insane. Which would be criminal.
Yes,
a terrible
it
act.
would be.
But I do have that impulse.
Do you know why?
No, I think some kind of childhood trauma or something. Probably I was told that doing that was something wrong with you if you did that. When I was a kid, if we saw somebody with a nose ring, I would be told it was because they were, somebody from the jungle, or or somebody was mentally ill to do that. And really, that nobody would do that if they were sane. And that's always in my mind. What is wrong with you?
So what is the difference? What is the difference between doing that to your ear and doing that to your nose?
I do not know, except that it seems, except that I do know that if you have it in your ear, once it's done, I mean, this is things I've learned over years. Once you have the ear pierced, if you keep earrings in, if you wear them regularly, that's fine. Otherwise, that hole might close up.
Well, that's true with any place you put a hole.
Okay, and then but when I think about it, a person having a ring through their nose, I think, how do you blow your nose if you get a cold? That must be an awful experience. To try to blow your nose and hold a handkerchief or a Kleenex on your nose, and there's a metal thing in there, and you're blowing your nose. Mucus.
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Adam, and I am Plotly's community manager.
I know. Well,
welcome to the
like that. I want to welcome. Excuse me, I'm sorry, but I was a science teacher. I looked at when you get a cold, you have to blow your nose. Isn't that irritating? And I've never done that, of course, because I don't want people to go, there's a nutcase here. Please, somebody get them away from me.
I've never had a nose ring, but I can tell you that wearing rings now, I have 4 rings that are very important to me. 1 was from my grandmother, 3 are from my husband, and 1 was from my mother. And I hardly ever wear them anymore because they're uncomfortable on my hands. And it's not that I still love those rings, and I do wear them. I wear them a couple times a week, but it's hard for me to get work done. Like even writing with a pencil or a pen is uncomfortable when I'm wearing my rings, especially if I'm wearing all 4 of them. So there are lots of things that are uncomfortable that we do anyway, because we're willing to pay the price. So having a nose ring to me is like, that's
wow. Well, I don't object to it. I don't want anybody making rules that you can't do that. because there are people in other parts of the country that have body piercings all the time.
Right.
There are people in some places where they have a big disc in their lips and stuff like that. And I understand traditions and I think it's a little strange, but that's okay. People have their own ways, and I would not say you can't do that. It's just that I find it weird. And
so I find it much weirder. I find it much weirder that you don't have any of those piercings, and yet you think about them maybe a lot more than the people who have those things.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah, well, have you ever heard me say that I don't have some weird thoughts?
No.
No, okay, good. So I don't. It doesn't bother me at all that you think that's weird. I certainly think it's weird. When I could be rational about it, I'd say to myself, "Well, it's none of your business what people do. As long as they don't bother you and don't hurt you or anything. Well, why do you care whether, But I just think it is a strange thing to do. There's a guy that just recently became very popular as a performer who his face is tattooed all over, lots of things. Until he started performing and talking about his tattoos and singing about them, his performances weren't that interesting to people. Now all of a sudden he's become like I don't want to say a star, but he's become popular. I just saw on the YouTube thing. He's not YouTube, on my iPad. He's become popular and he says it's because now when I'm singing, I sing about my face and about those tattoos and stuff, and so they've become more a part of me than ever. And I was, whoa, okay. So.
Well, I don't know what this has to do with mirrors, but.
Well, it had to do with senses. We were talking about the senses, It's like the sense of taste, and senses are different. Just like our perception of the outside world is based on our senses, ability to see things.
Okay.
So, do you have a time check now?
Yeah, I have 59 minutes.
Okay, I thought so. I wasn't sure, but I think we've killed another hour.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Enlighten Radio Storytelling Hour at enlightenradio.org, or independent community radio broadcasting from Bolivar, West Virginia, Hagerstown, Maryland, and Martinsburg, West Virginia. I'm Fanny Crawford.
And I'm Stas Sielkowski.
Thank you for listening. As we offer our listeners a window into the world of storytelling by traditional and non-traditional tellers, encouraging our listening community to share, preserve, and expand all of our stories. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for John Case and
Bluegrass, just a